All right, here it is. Live. First live stream for the Deadbeat Chronicles. David Coleman, I appreciate you helping me out with this today.
Awesome. Glad to be here today. Deadbeat
Yeah.
Chronicles.
Yeah, yeah. So we were talking a little bit before the show about, well, what is Deadbeat Chronicles? You had some questions. And first, introduce yourself a little bit, your background, and why in the heck you've got some good mind to talk about some of the subject we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. So, I'm glad to be a part of the first show. I know you've been working really hard to get this going, the Deadbeat Chronicles. You know, one of the things I always think about when you've been working the last few months to get this podcast going, I guess my first question is with you is what is the Deadbeat Chronicles? You know, people that are listeners and viewers, what is the Deadbeat Chronicles? Because a lot of people, the name itself, podcasts are out there, people get confused. So you tell me, what is the Deadbeat Chronicles? What was the vision?
I've had quite a few smirks when I tell people what the name of the podcast is. And so the origin, I was going through some tough times myself in the child support arena. Not so much family courts, but child support in particular. And I had seen not only myself, but several other non-custodial parents get run through, just getting berated and really disrespected. And for money to be the only currency in these situations that's discussed, it can really entrap. It can really put people in a bad situation. And I've heard the term deadbeat used. We've all heard that term used.
Mm-hmm.
And I did hear it used in the legal community and in those child support arenas. There was one particular event where a gentleman had shorted his child support $200 to buy his daughter a Christmas gift. And he was really chastised for doing that and basically told that he didn't have authority to do that, and that his ex-wife was to do that. So in that moment, I thought about writing a book. Mm-hmm. And the title of the book came to me pretty quick, actually, which was The Deadbeat Chronicles. And I've worked on that book in a few different segments in life over the past few years, and that has really evolved to a podcast and having all of those conversations, sharing my experiences. But the show is definitely not just a platform for my stories to get up and complain and bitch and moan about, some really traumatic family life experiences, but to have these experiences to move the needle from a reactive place to a proactive place, and having these conversations about the pitfalls of marriage and relationships and life and individual growth before people even get married. So, and the show's going to be about a lot more. If you were to draw a pie chart, 100% of it is not about marriage and divorce. There's a lot of other things that affect the American family, all kinds of different economic factors and location factors, mm-hmm. and education and exposure factors and things like that. We want to talk with family law judges, the family law community, district attorneys, child support. We definitely want to talk with here locally in Las Vegas, the Clark County School District. But this messaging, I'd really like to see spread out all over the country.
When you talk about to improve the success of the American family, I guess these days the American family is also has modified and changed, especially when they say that the divorce rate is like 50 or 60%. Now, I know we're in Vegas and nationwide. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but when you say to improve the success, I think back in the day, families and marriages seemed to be more successful. Where today, I'm not sure if it's the stressors of life and the economy and basically a man and a woman both working, where years ago, maybe it was just the man working instead of the woman, and they would take care of the home. And things have changed in regards to our society. So when you say to improve the success of the American family in regards to the show, how do you feel that you're able to do that for the show? On a weekly basis, you're bringing different people on. Are you trying to analyze how to do that, or you're just having different experts helping, people by listening it in regards to their situation?
I think it's an all of the above type of an answer there. I think it's got multiple components. I think we need to have the conversations and identify and be responsible about technology. We're giving 4-year-olds, smartphones and saying, hey, let 25% of your life be raised by these technologies. So that's a distraction right there. There are a lot of other distractions, society. I talk about virtue, and I had a pre-recorded podcast the other day, and someone asked me, well, Jeff, you say virtue. What's your version of virtue? And I think a very basic baseline, very basic, the moving back to the golden rule: do unto others as you wish, them to do with you. And personal responsibility. There's a lot of low self-esteem out there. So putting forward messaging and contacts and connections with the entities and organizations and people that are real great role models out there and doing it right. So I think it's a bit of a vague answer to say, oh, we're just looking to bring self-improvement into American young couples and individuals before they ever get married. But because there's so much to that. I have a bit of a stoic pursuit myself, and I think that the Deadbeat Chronicles will definitely have a stoic flair to it. A lot of that really concentrate on what you do control, be very strict with yourself and tolerant with others, and just kind of not focusing too much on what you don't control, which is really tough when that's focusing on divorce. When you're going through divorce, letting go of what you can't control has got to be about the most hardest things to do in all of life. And you're in a divorce, or things that lead up to a divorce, or things that lead up to a marriage. The show is really all about having the conversation. If the conversation's not held, it can't go anywhere from there. So the show, Deadbeat Chronicles show itself, is truly about having those conversations constantly. And we'll have both the live stream on Friday mornings, starting at 11, and then also hopefully 2 to 3 pre-records during the week that get posted up to the social media and YouTube and everything.
Where do you think, a year from now, since this is the first episode, and things always modify and change, just like I started the Problem Solver 2 years ago, where do you think it will change, or what would you measure as success with it? If you did 50, this is the first one, we have 52 weeks, 51 weeks from now will be 52 episodes of the Deadbeat Chronicles. Where do you foresee it? Where would you feel the success? Like, how do you think you would feel success in regards to the, for you're having this podcast and people listening and viewers and so on as it gets bigger? How do you look back at 51 weeks from now and say, you know what, I did it. I feel really good about what I did. Like, how do you feel the value? How do you measure, I guess, the success in your eyes? Because everyone's different why they're passionate. Like with me, I'm passionate with solving people's problems because I was a cop for 17 years, which I'll get into after. But how will you measure your success with the Deadbeat Chronicles?
I think there's multiple answers, but I've got to pick one. In the family support and legal community, both, if I'm on a very friendly first name basis with those professionals, with the people on both sides of discourse, that would be a great measurement of success for me. And I could say mechanical things, or what I call mechanical, like a bunch of subscribers on the YouTube channel, which please, yes, do. I subscribe and like and comment on all of our stuff. But I think that would be the greatest measure, is dealing with the actual individuals face to face that are dealing in the trenches in these arenas every day. Again, the judges, the attorneys, the clerks, the nonprofits, a lot of the organizations that take care of the kids, Child Haven, Safe Nest, CPS, Metro, FBI, Juvenile Justice Impact, and Susan Finnick's gonna chew me up one side and down the other for not pronouncing that right. So, but yeah, all of those entities and organizations we definitely want to be connected with, and so I think that'd be the best measure a year from now.
As you're talking about it, I was just thinking of a few different things, which, things do modify when you do a podcast sometimes because you have a vision of something, but things sometimes change. And I'll share with you a concept where you may want people, I know people, you're going to want people to call in, and I know we have a number that people can call in if they want to discuss, something that's going on in their life, right, of their family, or if they're going through a divorce or whatever is going on in their life, right?
And let's talk about that real quick. I don't know if it's the screen back here, but I'll even read it off. Area code 855-502-4321 is the number to call in. And I'm interested to...
By the way, also the local number if you're Vegas, it's 702-329-6947, 702-329-6947, but nationwide it's 855-502-4321. What you were saying?
Well, I was just saying, in a bit of what we're doing here, folks, this is the first time I've been on a live stream like this. As I look across the studio, I'm like, oh, well, that's the information I needed right there. Thanks for pointing it out, Dave. But I'm interested to get calls in because you never know what's coming, right? And I think the show should really be prepared to discuss about every aspect that affects the family. And what's the family, right? What's the dynamic? You were talking about the dynamic that was 20, 30, maybe actually 40, 50 years ago. You know, Ozzie and Harriet.
Mhm.
Well, how many we could have a full hour-long episode on the different dynamics that are a reality in today's America, right? And they're all valued, they're all important. Not a one is better or worse than the other. They're all trying to do the best they can. Raising kids, whether again adopted, natural parent, stepkids, all of the above. We've got a kind of a wide range of dynamic of what is the family, and it's all good.
But do you feel like I'll give
It
you
could
an
be
example.
better. It could be better.
I get phone calls all the time of different problems with people. A lot of them are family problems. And
Domestic cases.
Domestic, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my feeling is this: would you want people to call in that have a family situation, whether it's a divorce or custody, where you feel you're more the expert to at least guide them, and sometimes they need an attorney or something, sometimes they don't. Sometimes because you feel you know the process, right? Because you've been through it.
I would say I would not call myself the expert to turn to on any of this stuff, but I would definitely
You'll also
say
be
that
a-
I'm the connector.
Okay,
I would be a
So you
connector,
could be
a
a
conduit.
referral source,
Definitely a referral
or
source.
you have a network
And-
of different people or programs.
And I'm sure I've got my own resolve and resiliency to share about getting past some
Okay.
of my own experiences that have been very traumatic, very depressing. But again, the show is truly not about Jeff Keach and his story and his platform to go along with a book he may be writing. You know, it's all very much the same subject matter, and I believe the responsibility sits with we the people. I don't believe that's corny or untraditional at all. It sits with us, not the state, not society, not entertainment, certainly not social media, and anything else short form. Let me mention that too. I believe that long form is very important. Long form discussion gets things done. Long form brings opposing views together and gets things done, and that doesn't exist in mainstream media. That's certainly polarizing. If it's anywhere near long form, it's certainly one-sided, right? Either side doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I'm a big fan of podcasts in general, and figured, well, it's time for me to give it a go and get these conversations out there.
You know, so I was saying before, and I'll just give you a little background about myself, and then I'll share a story with you, because I think these would be the call. We'll see how you would answer it in general. But so I happen to be a retired police officer. I was a cop for 17 years in New York City and also in Henderson, and I retired about 8 years ago. Started working in some different law firms. I worked at the Las Vegas Defense Group. I worked at the Defenders, and now I currently work at the Hadari Law Group, Samurai and Hadari. I'm the director of operations there, but I'm known as the problem solver in the community, and I think you're a problem solver in regards to, you know, dealing with family legal issues, even though there's various discussions you can have. But a lot of people do call me with problems, and I think that this program, that if people have family issues, it would be a good discussion. Not that you're a therapist and so on, just have a discussion. But because you've been around the block, a lot of times you don't have to be licensed and certified. You've experienced certain things by dealing with the system, and the system isn't perfect. So the other day I got a phone call, and this would be interesting to share with you, is that a woman that I know in the community basically called me and said, hey, I got this woman. She's really upset. She gets on the phone. She's crying, and she says, look, you know, I got in a fight with the baby's father, and he made an allegation. I got arrested. The baby's like 3 weeks old, and she wants to see the baby. And the guy says, look, you can't see the baby, you know, because we got into a fight. She's allowed to see the baby, but the guy's being so hard-headed and upset, even though she got arrested. Now, the sad part about it is that she was breastfeeding, and she has breast milk, right? And from the situation, as you know, that it's very painful for storage of the breast milk if you don't.
Release it,
Release
let
it,
it out.
let it
Like us
out.
talking like we know, but
And I've heard crazy stories, which I'd never heard this before, but some women that are in prison, like they're literally the jail, they're going over to the sink and releasing, you know, breast milk because it's painful, and they're in jail for a day or 3 days or a week, whatever. And I never even heard of something like this. And the woman called me. I've heard that part maybe a few months ago. And this woman called me. She was so upset. She wants to breastfeed her, you know, the child, and the guy will not allow her access to the child. So if you had a caller that called in with that question, which is very advanced, what would you say to that person? What would be? I know this is a hardball, because this is very unusual. Like, have you ever even heard of this? Like, you probably never even thought about this happens in. Imagine you just had a baby. You
it
get in a
certainly
fight, you
it
get
certainly makes
arrested.
sense. I just I had not heard of that or hadn't thought of it before you mentioned it here.
Yeah. So what would you take on it for being involved in the system, what would you say to that person? Because that's very advanced.
Well, and it's very that incarceration, that part of the system. I don't know if I would have. I probably turn to you. Talk about the legal aspects of that. I would really now that's where you undeniably need family law, right?
So-
I was thinking, with the show, yes, I think we'll have a lot of discussions about the system and the courts and the mechanisms that need reform.
So it's funny for you. I'm going to give you a homework assignment.
All right.
Your homework assignment for this show is this. I mean, like with my wife when she had kids, right? They have the breast pumps and they could store the milk. My question is, in prison or jail, do they have that type of system set up so a woman can actually, instead of wasting that milk, right? That there's pumps and storage set up for women that are basically have this unusual situation of, God forbid, being in prison. Because these days, when you go to the airport, they have those locations where you can breastfeed in private, like a booth. I was actually at Burbank, airport this morning, and there's those little like mammoth van. It's something going on. You go to privacy. But in prison, I don't know if that exists, and that's something
I know who to ask.
Okay, you know who to ask.
I know who to ask. And,
So these
and
are
again,
issues
Dr.
that you
Fennick
could-
would be one.
Okay, so
And,
these are issues that people could bring up, and that you can work on it, to basically make society better. And this is a very, very unusual situation, which
Yeah.
even though I was a cop for 17 years, never heard of it, never heard people talk about it, but I've dealt with it now. This is my second time. So I did refer them to a family law attorney that the Hadari Law Group works with, is an attorney named William Devine, who does family law, and one of the associate attorneys. And I referred them, and they wound up, signing up with the attorney to get some help and basically fight for custody and all the other stuff. But it's not an easy process, and I actually felt really bad, for the woman the other day. But I think it's something that when you have conversations like, wow, I wonder if that's addressed in the jail system, and maybe the local jail, not the prison. Sometimes you hear people giving birth that are in prison, so I don't know how that works.
We deal with real life issues, right?
Yeah.
Like real life circumstance issues. And again, if that conversation were to come into the show, even if it was a call-in spur of the moment, the direction would immediately go to legal for me, pushing it that way. I wouldn't have a lot of advice other than maybe going a direction with advice on when you're in a very, very bad situation, kind of turn inward, and you got to believe in yourself. Which takes the conversation almost to, yes, the show will be about systems and real life things like that, the real life circumstances that are really, really unfortunate and should be avoided, right? We're in 2023. Where's our civilization with our bureaucracies and our systems and our procedures? But a big, big part of the show, I want to really focus on proactive conversations. So I really think that personal responsibility, extreme ownership that volume needs to really turn up in elementary school, junior high, high school, the formative years with our kids. And I think the conversation also needs to be with, let's say, my generation and my kids in their early 20s generation type of thing. So yes, the stories of like real life stories. I'll mention Michael McDonald. I don't know if you know Michael, but he's got one of the wildest divorce stories you've ever heard. And I believe he's probably done some things that certainly made the situation worse. And just get compiling one thing after the other, And we'll have him on the show. I'll probably even talk to him later this afternoon about making some plans about a pre-recorded podcast. So we will have those conversations about the mechanism of family law here in North America and the reforms that need to happen. I would absolutely love to have past and current elected family court judges to get their take on it, and everything. One of the other reasons that pushed me towards the podcast also was there is a currently elected family court judge. She's in office, and when she was running for campaign, I made contact with her, and I just wanted to ask the simple question: why do you want to be family court judge? Not challenging it by any means, but more so why? Like what's the passion? And the first couple answers seemed very mechanical in what she had done in her law career privately, or previously rather. And I asked, how did she feel about the system and its workings and its procedures and strategies? And then how much pressure do the lawyers themselves put on the procedures to affect the change that they want, case by case for their clients? And she really, really struggled through that answer. And that's when I really got to thinking, I'm the Joe Citizen, right? I'm we the people. We vote for people, we put in office, we want to be able to connect with them, not challenge them, connect with them, help them out, bolster them, promote them, assist. And that was not the way that phone conversation went. It was very very, what's the word I'm looking for? Evasive, very evasive. And so that's all part of it. I'm not looking to, approach a $50 billion a year family law industry in North America and attack it and tell it it's horrible and all these things, because it's just not. And I'm sure it's very complicated. I'm sure it's the scenario you just asked me about, the gal in jail,
Yeah.
and something like that. Well, that's extremely complicated and unique. And probably the best phrase one of the best phrases I ever heard in life was, someone asked me, Jeff, why are families screwed up? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, there's people in them. So that's kind of jovial and funny in one direction, and it almost kind of opens things up and creates some tolerance for people's differences, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, when you talk about family, that's just the bowl of a different dynamic,
Well, it's the same thing with work. When you have a business, the hardest part is employees. I mean, people aren't the easiest situation, whether you're dealing with family issues or work. And
Right.
I mean, we need people to basically be in society, but it's not easy in general. We all come from different backgrounds and places, and also your upbringing, right? Some people have PTSD from their previous. Some people have been victimized or sexually, victimized as well. And basically, right, there's trauma and the people's past, and people. Also, the way people were spoken to, right? Like their father, their mother, the traumatic experience in the past is the way that they are with their children, which I think is a perfect example. Like with me and my wife, we're actually very loving to our children, and I'm always kissing and hugging them, and I'm really giving a lot of love, but that's not always done in every single household. One of the jokes I said to my kid, Chloe, who's 8 years old, I'm like, you know how lucky you are that I'm kissing you and I'm hugging you and I'm holding you and I tell you that I love you. That doesn't happen in every home.
Yeah.
You don't realize that because this is the only home that you know. But not everybody has that upbringing. So when people act out like kids in school, it's maybe because they have a bad family life, and maybe the father, the mother aren't there, or divorce situations which aren't easy.
You touched on something. You're saying, Chloe, not every family goes through this. So the antithesis is something is going the other way, all the way to abuse, right? And I think that's it. That's where we want to change generational trauma and move it over into generational love. And it sounds like you're doing that, by that example. And don't stop doing that. I mean, and we both know time is short also.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How do you feel that you can change it on a larger level? Since this is a nationwide podcast and vodcast, basically, where people are going to watch and listen to this, how do you feel that you can make those changes on a larger scale? Right? We can tell everybody, hey, be loving and kiss your kids and hug them and tell them how much you care about them and listen to them and pay attention, right? I mean, I guess we're getting our voice across where people listen to, but is there a certain strategy that you feel just talking about it with people, it's kind of therapeutic to talk about this? Like people may hear, like if I was listening, I'm like, wow, maybe I need to kiss my kid more, or hug them more, tell them I appreciate them more, or tell them that you really, you're proud of them, That's what builds up a kid, right? Or even the funny thing is, I think it even goes to a workplace, because a lot of times I know when you work for people, sometimes it's about money, sometimes it's about relationship. I always say, at this point in time, I'm a little bit older now, where to me it's more, when you work with someone, it's more about the relationship. It's not always about the money, right? If you're treated really nicely, or if you break bread with your coworkers or your boss and so on, that means more than the money, But of course, we need money to pay bills and so on. But I just think that starts from a younger age, and I think that parents need to be more aware,
Oh, 100%. So again, the simple way to say it, I guess, how is the show going to affect such change is by talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think about talking about it in an incredibly honest, incredibly candid way. But getting incredibly candid, talking about some really vulnerable stories and having people share some really vulnerable feelings with a lot of support and intent for resolve. I mean, we could have a bitch and moan and gripe session with thousands of people in Las Vegas. I'm sure maybe tens of thousands, and all over the country. I mean, divorce is not a pretty thing, is it? It's not.
No.
And so everyone's got a complaint. There are multiple group pages on social media, and there's one called "War Declared on the Family Court System." And my first thought is, well, that's sets the rules of engagement right there, doesn't it? That's not going to get anywhere. That's just complaint. And that's one approach. You can declare war, I guess, but there's got to be a more emotionally intelligent way to bring real people and real powers that be. Again, the family court judges, I really would love to hear what they have to say. I'd love to meet with every single one of them, in person and record and, bring them on the show.
You probably should go online, and then you could look up the family law judges and invite them to come on the show to basically have them share everything family related. You think they'd be hesitant to come on, or?
We'll see. We'll definitely talk about it. I mean, it's hard for me to assume things, and I'm an assuming guy. That's one of the things I have to work on. I can be a very assuming, maybe leap to reaction type of opinionated person. And I've found that taking this deep dive, over the past 8-9 weeks on researching some things, I have been pleasantly corrected. And so it's a very open space. I've got a lot to learn. I think everyone's got a lot to learn. But I think we're also very responsible people. We all, love our kids. And like you say, some people are just exposed to different things in their families. So that's going to be generational, right? Until there's change, there's no change. Until there's exposure to that change, till there's exposure and things to practice and books to read, then it doesn't change. So that's really what the show is about. And then going back to Stoicism, I've got a mantra of the day here. Some people might be into some of these philosophies, but the term memento mori, you could leave life right now. Keep that in mind. And that doesn't mean go out and party. Being here in Las Vegas, that doesn't mean go blow 10 grand on, parties and rock star and lifestyle and all this stuff. It means living with the kind of responsibility and pride for the things that you've created and moving forward with it. And just doing the best you can with everything. Again, being strict with yourself, tolerant with others, and just following a lot of those virtuous paths. Controlling your day. What's your morning routine, if I can ask?
It's not the best routine. I just feel I'm tired. I'm trying to get out of bed, take care of 3 kids, get them to school and get to work on time.
Right.
So it's kind of, besides, taking a shower and
but that sounds pretty
and
normal.
stuff like that. Normal, yeah.
But that seems pretty normal.
How should it be?
Well, I don't know if
what should I be doing different?
I don't know if I'm anyone that can tell anyone else how it should be. But what I can tell you is putting some of the practices that I've learned from some of the recent Stoics. I'll give some credit out to Ryan Holiday, Robert Greene. I can tend to be into some of the military side of things with Jocko Willink and David Goggins. But about a year ago, I changed my routine to when I wake up, I don't touch my phone to communicate for 1 hour. Mm-hmm. If I'm touching my phone, it's for good brain food or maybe a podcast from Ryan Holiday or something like that. I want to journal. I want to get up, stretch, work out, and then get on with my workday. So I think the main conversation there is being intentful with your mornings. And you win the morning, you win the day. And get up early. Get up early. I mean, I do steal some of the Stoic, sayings and things like this. But again, you win the morning, you win the day. And ever since I've been doing that, my sleep's been better. I've been more productive. I'm more ready to meet the world out there. My expectations aren't quite so hard on myself. I'm not expecting someone else to respond the way or in the timely manner that I want. And my 9 to 5, I'm in the swimming pool design and build arena. It's a very aggressive arena with a lot of moving parts and a lot of people to communicate with. So again, getting back into that control of my morning and then getting into that fast lane, it really made a big difference. So again, I think that's, I don't know if I can say, Dave, you should be doing that, but and it's hard. Family, kids, job, all the things you've created with your podcast and everything.
If you're disciplined to do that, I feel like I lack a little bit of discipline of waking up earlier. The truth is, I probably should wake up an hour earlier. I should go do a run or walk in the community, right, early in the morning for exercise, and then basically, take a shower, get ready, get the kids, and so on. But these days, I feel like work takes over the general. Someone on Facebook just wrote in. It says, "Love that. Win the morning, win the day." Mary Ann basically just wrote in from Facebook.
She did. So that's is that the inaugural post? I've got to tell everyone that's from my own
That's
wife.
the first post. There you go.
She
So
gets- and she's gonna kill me
At
for
least-
saying that she's not necessarily a morning person like I am.
Okay.
I get up and it's like let's go right away, and she's rolling out of bed like, if you say anything right now, I'm not gonna like you anymore. So, but we make it work. I'll even give this is a show about family. The dynamics that I've seen through my own relationships, previous relationships, and those breakups, children in previous relationships, and then a lot of good examples. Mary Ann and I got married, I truly believe, because she's a tremendous example. A great mother to, her two sons, my two stepsons, and all that. But and we'll talk about things like that later. I had a recorded podcast the other day, and it was with a mediator. And one of her first questions was, what good do you have to say? What good examples are you seeing out there? Because as a mediator, she's usually negotiating some egos, right? She's usually negotiating some hurt feelings and genuine hurt feelings and stuff. So she was asking, she doesn't talk to the positive side too much. That's just not what a mediator does. And I do believe that there are tremendous stories out there. I'd like to have a lot of those good examples out there. And again, good examples in the many different family dynamics that are out there. Are we talking adoption? Are we talking single parent, male or female? We're talking, the supposed American dream, mom and dad at home, mom stays at home, there's plenty of money coming in the door. It is very expensive to raise kids these days, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how old are your kids?
I have 8, 6, and 4.
So you're just getting started.
I mean, just a school alone, like a private school, cost. But actually, luckily in Vegas, even though it's expensive, in Los Angeles, I think it's like a private school for it could be a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, it could be like $25,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worse than college these days for a young kid in a private school. And the question really comes down to is, of course, education is important, but the average person can't spend that money.
So
Imagine spending $2,000 a month in private school.
Yeah, I can. But
for like a 6-year-old.
I can.
If you have 3 kids, that's $6,000 a month.
I know.
It could be a lot more money. I don't understand that people can really afford it. I mean, God bless that people can pay that type of money.
I think I think there's the drive to the curriculum, right? So some folks think that maybe the public school system isn't doing it right. They can afford to go over to the private sector, and let's say there's so many charter schools, whatever, and God bless them. But I still think that the responsibility should be with mom and dad, or the parents, whatever the dynamic is. And so where does that start? So where does that education start and all of that drive? And moms and dads, how far are you and I from being kids? We're parents. Do we really know what we're doing? Like, do we really, really know what we're doing? When I think of my dad at 53, I'm 53 now. When he was 53, I mean, he had his shit together, according to me. Like, my view is he was together. And we have had conversations as the years have gone on. He's like, I'm, pretty conservative, stable guy. But Jeff, there were times when, there was stuff going on and it was very stressful. And you get to those stressful points and you realize I've been here before. I can handle it. And I think that takes a lot of training for self-confidence, self-love. And where is that conversation with our kids? Where is that conversation along with school curriculum and getting into college, right? And then social media. What are you doing? I'll ask you, what are you doing with social media with your family? Or the restrictions on it?
I know some people are really against it in general. The problem is that eventually, right, they're going to be on social media. So maybe you could say that they're waiting until they get older. I think that the more technology that they learn, that with all these apps and all these things that are taking place, that I feel like they need to be up with it. As long as it's educational stuff, like with my kids, we try to make sure they use apps that are educational, where they're learning. I think that's key. So like not, these days, I think with my phone, I think that they may grab and they get to TikTok and I think it's engaging. Of course, I think TikTok is not something you should be on. So we'll say, hey, because they're grabbing my phone. They don't have a phone at this point in time. But we are getting there with the 8-year-old. She's already asking for like a phone or something like that. So I think you have to limit it in general. It has to be educational stuff. You have to basically block as much as possible. It's negative. You know, you can Google pretty much anything these days. So, but
doubt.
are you against that, or what's your thoughts? I feel like they're going to see it anyway. No matter what, they're going to go to a friend's house. Someone's going to have a phone. They're going to see it. They're going to get upset and jealous that they don't have a phone. I think if you basically just explain that it needs to be used for educational for when you're young. Like they always say, oh, dad, you know, daddy's always on the phone. But I'm always working, you know, texting, email, calling, and stuff like that. I'm not playing games. So I think there's, you have to limit certain things in general, and everything is, what do you call it, within reason of how much time that you're spending on these different things.
And for what age, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you say your oldest is 8. Sooner or later, it's going to be 12, 16, 17, and then a lot of things are running parallel with that. So at some point, mom and dad have to release a little bit of control because you're just not in control. You know, the technologies are out there, and if the only thing you could do is take those technologies away. So you'll find that my philosophies and styles are probably not incredibly restrictive, but widely informative. I want to talk about things. I want to talk about sex, drugs, rock and roll. I want to talk about the things that are really going on out there. I want to talk about the ways for the boys that are still in the house, my 2 stepsons, the ways that when they get frustrated, how to work through issues, right? And the greatest empire to conquer is up here, right? I mean, I'm not a written philosopher myself, so a lot of these phrases I'm taking from what I'm learning myself. But to realize that the majority of the things that go on in our brains are reactions and responses to things that happen, right? For me, that's been one of the biggest things to learn over the past couple of years even. And the more and more I embrace that, the more productive I can be, the more loving I can be. In other words, the more strength and more in service I can be to either my family or my work partners or my relationships. I'd like to say, me reaching out and calling you and say, Dave, you want to jump on the show? Let's talk about some things. Very organic. We've got a good relationship. I mean, that doesn't happen overnight, right?
Absolutely.
It takes a little while. And so back to the kids, though. I think that the importance to really talk about things. So my style would be to really, and a lot of explanation. And then get there, again, long form. I mean, we're moving so fast. Our 17-year-old, he is glued to that cell phone, really like a cyborg. And I poke at him, hey, you know, let's get that thing out of your hand in so many ways and all these things. But the onus should really be on me somewhat to be in there let's talk about whatever, or let's go do something, or hey, there's a wire we got to splice back together in the garage on some component or something like that. You know, just anything to spend time. I think we're all distracted. I think we all are. Because there's so many things to distract us. So how do you change that
with a 17? I mean, I feel like there's no. If you're limited, they're going to be mad at you, and they want. And the problem with this is it's like a drug these days as well. I mean, basically, social media is a drug. I mean, it's
a
addiction.
dopamine drip. You're chasing the dopamine drip.
For me, like for work-wise, like it's the text message of, you know, of me helping people or getting a message that's going to be, you know, good information that's going to be helpful to me. But I think a lot of people are very much addicted to it in general.
I think talking about self-discipline, and believe you me, I'm not Captain Self-Discipline. With some things I am and some things I'm not, but self-discipline's a part of it, for sure. And then what is that self-discipline about? Well, what does someone want to do? What are their pursuits? What are their drives? And that's where the conversation would never end. You'd bring 10 people in and they'd have 10 different pursuits or lack thereof. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think that's what it's all about. And something else we're involved with, we've got you're pointing, you got one more question asked.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because when you talk about marriage, you know, why do you feel that basically the destruction of marriage is equal to the destruction of America? Like, why do you feel if a lot of people are getting divorced and so on, why do you feel that it's just changing America, or what's your take on that?
I do. I think a lot of people do, and I think in a lot of different forms. Not just marriages falling apart or continually weakening America, but I think the denigration of the family. I think the all of the mechanisms that are challenging against the family. It could be entertainment, social media, even government mechanisms and things like that. But the more that we as a nation are split at the family level, then we're split from the inside out. And I don't mean to, I don't think at all that I want to take the show political, but I think everyone would recognize that there's a lot of things going on. A lot of internal things going on to divide us, a lot of things that are going on globally that are apparently coming in and challenging us or whatever. And we've got to tell you what, we only have about 15 minutes. Aaron, can we cut for a commercial break for Hadari Law Firm, and then we'll come back. I wanted to talk a little bit about the partner nonprofit for the Deadbeat Chronicles, Room Redux, Nevada.
Great.
Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
Hey guys, welcome back. Got a little commercial break there. Thank you, Aaron. I wanted to talk about a brand new nonprofit into Nevada. It is Room Redux Nevada. And
Room Redux.
Room Redux, and they originate out of Central Texas, and they're in, I believe, 11 or 12 states right now. They're also international in London, Canada, Mexico, and the Philippines. Brand new chapter, and what the group does is with anonymity goes into the bedrooms of sexually and physically traumatized kids, teenagers and adolescents, and goes into the bedrooms of the home where the trauma may have occurred, also the bedrooms of foster and kinship locations, and even other locations that are certain types of housing that are very unique to potentially also take care of these situations. So it's we had our double launch party about a week and a half ago. Tremendous success. About 100 people showed up. It was great. Susie and Greg, the founders, flew out from Texas. So very exciting. And again, very much in line with the conversation of the Deadbeat Chronicles. That entity is very much engaged in communicating and connecting with family law, family judges, all of the support entities, CPS, Metro, FBI, Child Haven, Safe Nest, all of the above, and also Clark County Schools and family counselors. Now, for the victims to qualify for the organization and the projects and the transitions, the room transformations, is the child has to be going through counseling. So it's all part of that emotional healing, bringing that individual back into a place of self-love and much higher self-esteem.
I think it's an amazing program. I'd never heard about it before until you mentioned it. I think it's great. I think we have a call that just is calling in.
Hello.
Yes, how can we help you here at Deadbeat Chronicles? Thanks for calling in.
Oh, hi. Yes. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this about? You guys are the attorneys?
No, we are. It's called the Deadbeat Chronicles, and we're talking about the family, life in America and helping people and referring them to right places and sharing some stories.
Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Jasmine.
Hey, Jasmine, Jeff here. Yeah, the show is really about talking about pretty much anything that affects the American family, both good and bad. And the goal is to talk about how to constantly improve the family and constantly improve the conversation and the support around it. But Jasmine, what were you thinking about today?
Well, I was thinking about asking you guys, why are divorce attorneys so expensive? I mean, I've been married several times, and it's been expensive for me.
I'm going to have to turn to David for maybe the mechanical answer on that. I think that, man, I think the costs in general of law are expensive.
It's
I don't
what
know if divorce is any more expensive than anything else.
When you say mechanical, it's kind of funny. I think Jasmine, well, first of all, I mean, maybe it's a good thing that you. Is it a good thing for you being divorced a few times? Has that been helpful?
Yeah, I love to fall in love. So
it's not.
So you're single
the
now.
ending. Well, yeah, obviously.
She's single now.
I didn't know
How
that
many
the
times-
divorce meant she was still.
How many times have you been divorced? Like just twice, or
Well, I've been divorced. I mean, not that much. It's only been like 3 times.
okay? So the bottom line is why are divorce lawyers expensive? I think in general, lawyers are expensive, and the amount of time and work that comes into play, especially if it's like financial assets and stuff like that. So it depends if you have cars, houses. When it comes down to money, sad to say, people fight about these issues. So sometimes it takes a bunch of money with attorneys to work on an hourly basis. But it's not easy for the regular person that doesn't have a lot of money, right? So some divorce attorneys are more reasonable. $2,500 flat free, $3,000. Some would say $30,000. So I think that the goal is to interview different attorneys for family law when you basically have a problem like that.
Okay, and I think I think that there are folks out there that would say and just complain up one side down the other about the attorney base, saying that they're just out there to leverage and make money and stretch things out. But
Absolutely.
but in the defense of the family law industry out there, I think that if the character of people was more self-responsible, more self-reliant, more respectful, more loving, instead of leaning back and reacting on anger and then going to grab a hold of the vehicles that are available to them to destroy each other, an attorney's job is to represent their client. And if the client is bitter and angry and there's custody and manipulation and narcissism and all these things, well, maybe that's maybe that drives the financial expense up, and it certainly drives creates a lot of other expense that doesn't have anything to do with money. It has to do with a lot of damage and trauma and things that David's asking me, hey, what are we trying to do on this show here? And I would think that's it. That's move that needle. Move that needle so that if there is to be a divorce, hopefully we'll push the needle where the divorce rates will drop significantly. On those situations where there is an unavoidable split in a divorce, it's very amicable, loving, respectful, and especially if there's children and a custody debate, that things are centered around the children. Let me give a little plug here. There's a gal by the name of Rosalind Sadeka out of West Palm Beach, Florida, and she started the child-centered divorce 30 years ago. And why it doesn't have more attention, I don't know, especially in today's society. But it's very good messaging, and when folks split and there's kids in there, it's a custody issue. There's an awful lot of pain, right? An awful lot of pain and fear and anger and ego. And I think
So you're saying that if the couple is fighting and it just prolongs the case, which makes it more expensive. Is that what you're saying? Or, I mean, what I've experienced a little bit is the lawyer sometimes is looking at your assets and going, oh, well, they have this much, or the both sides have a lot of assets and stuff, so we should take our part. Do you feel that sometimes with some lawyers?
I'm gonna be honest and say I don't have enough experience into that, and I really don't want to jump on the bandwagon that does feel that way, or the bandwagon with the folks that do feel that way, and but again, it's a conversation to be had, not just once, a lot. There's I don't know, David, how many?
So you're not a
family
lawyer.
law
You're
cases?
not a lawyer, right?
Oh gosh, no. I dig fancy holes in backyards of people and fill it up with concrete, steel, and fancy stuff, and deal with swimming pools.
Oh,
And
really?
I've got that's my 9 to 5. But I do have personal experiences as a child with some abuse and some dynamic of parents in two different directions it was a definite good and bad delineated line for me. I felt the same way going through divorce. I felt things that were pretty simple and clearly drawn, right and wrongs and ways to act, and that was all just completely diluted. Any of those standards, any of those virtues and integrities were completely diluted in the process.
Yeah.
They
you're
really
right.
were.
You're right. Well, at least mine were all amicable, so I got most of the assets. So
And-
that was a good thing.
And I
Well,
also
you
don't
know-
have enough experience or tracking to comment on are the real problems with divorce asset related or custody related. I feel
Right.
it's custody related. Those are real heart issues with children and
Yeah.
real hearts.
True.
I-
True.
I believe that divorce does, and I heard this phrase from both a mediator and a divorce mediator and a divorce coach, in that divorce, marriage issues, and divorce, belong in the mental health field, not in the courts. And
Yeah.
that has had me really thinking about a lot of things in pushing the needle that way. So we'll see
Right.
what kind of conversations we can
Are
bring
you,
to the
are,
table. And do that.
are you married?
I am very successfully for
Oh,
the
very.
second time. We've been together for a little over 10 years and just fairly recently married. Would have gotten married a little sooner, but COVID got in the way, and I wasn't willing to get married with looking at everybody with a mask on their face like this. So, but
well,
no,
yeah.
and she is a wonderful mother with two wonderful sons that are my stepsons, and we've been together for a little over 10 years. So we definitely know each other, and they were very young when we first met. So I've had the opportunity to play hopefully a very good role in raising them. And I'm not perfect. I'm sure I've shown them some things that are like, oh my Jesus.
That's all.
But
It's all
David,
learning.
you
Well,
were
good for you.
David, earlier you were talking about how would you suggest handling certain things. I do tend to have some long-winded conversations with the boys in the house, and I'm sure they look at me at 17 and 19 like, when is this conversation going to end? But hopefully somewhere down the road it'll resonate and be good.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. So, I mean, are you guys into matchmaking at all? Because I am looking for my fourth husband right now.
I tell you what, Jasmine, can we grab Jasmine's number and we'll pass it out there? And Jasmine,
She sounds
I'll tell-
sounds like a catch, so we'll have to work on it.
I tell you what, I mean, Jasmine, you might as well describe your perfect. What are you looking for? And I mean, somebody's got to be listening that
God.
fits that bill.
Well, how long is your show? I mean, because it might go on for a while.
Maybe she could fill out. We should have to have a matchmaking form. She's gonna have to complete on the Deadbeat Chronicles website, so we can play matchmaker as well.
Should we have a matchmaking ramp up, and then we'll have a matchmaking episode
Yeah.
and put people together?
And Jasmine seems like the perfect person to be
There
part of
you
it.
go.
All right, Jasmine, if you could put an outline together for that show, we'll bring you on, and I'd love to have you co-host with me.
Oh, cool. Okay.
All right, Jasmine, thanks so much for calling in. We appreciate you calling
Thank
in.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
You got it. Yes. No. Cool.
She mentioned the question, the lawyer situation. I think what's important with your show is that I think that a lot of people want to start calling in, and they're going to have questions like, who should I call? Or I'm having a problem, or I have no money. If someone says, I have no money, I need a divorce. So who do they call? Right? And I think that you need to have a lot of resources available
I
to
agree.
talk about those programs. And one thing which is interesting, a lot of people don't know, Clark County in Vegas, there's free mediation. And there's a lot of free mediation all over the place where a lot of it's business stuff. And I'm sure there's therapy and there's different places. United Way, 211, you can call and ask basically, look, if I need therapy and I have no money, I'm basically fighting with my husband, my wife. Who can I call? Where can I go? There's programs out there.
Guys,
and you
and-
need to have those resources.
And there's a tremendous amount of free brain food, free, great, terrific brain food. Spend time on YouTube. Follow some of the stuff that Ryan Holiday is talking about. Read books, be audio. And, or I said that wrong. I'm a horrible reader, but audio I'll listen to all day long. So there's all kinds of proactive stuff to do. It's not just what are the resources to go. It's not just about what are the resources when you need them. Be proactive and go seek out growth and the things that are going to help with your families, yourself, everything. I'll, again, give a little plug to Ryan Holiday. He's got a website called The Daily Stoic. And The Daily Stoic Life, I believe, is the membership. He's also got something called The Daily Dad. And it's a daily podcast that goes out and an email that comes out with all kinds of good messaging daily. And we all need a coach, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's it. Don't wait for someone to be reactive. Don't wait for the resource. Go out and learn. Go out and surround yourself with people that are on that same path, and then pull others with you. And that will be, in part, the success of the American family.
So, quick question for people that want to get in contact with you. The Deadbeat Chronicles, is there now a website? There's Facebook. What's out there?
There sure is. We've got, for the Deadbeat Chronicles, we've got the website and the domain name. We've got the Facebook group and business page, and very easy to get a hold of via email. It's just thedeadbeatchronicles@gmail.com, and very easy to. We've got a forum at the bottom of the website, thedeadbeatchronicles.com, to fill out and pretty much discuss anything. With both the podcast and Room Redux Nevada, we are in full speed mode to create an awful lot of introductions and have an awful lot of meetings. And I believe both organizations really kind of highlight each other.
So the deadbeatchronicles@gmail.com if people want to email you a question or concern,
Sure.
or if they need a reference or resource in general. And
100%.
so that's great to know. And then is there any phone numbers to call, or we're just doing straight email right now?
Straight email right now. I don't know. We may get a company number or something like that to come in, but for right now, I'll email. And I'm very easy to get a hold of. I communicate all day long.
You know, if you want, so with the Problem Solver podcast that I have, which is Thursdays at 6 o'clock, we have a phone number which you can share as well, which I think is a really easy number, which we could always, if it's specific issues for your podcast or for the Deadbeat Chronicles. So the number that we have is 702-999-1111. So it's an easy number.
Oh, right on.
999-1111. So if there's issues,
I
that
have
you
to
want
create
get
a number like that. You got to show me how.
touch with Deadbeat Chronicles, we can connect you as well. If people need some resources, myself as a retired police officer of 17 years and the Problem Solver, I like helping people with problems, you know, working to help people with whatever type of legal issue there are. Again, I'm not an attorney, you're not an attorney, but us knowing attorneys and having referral sources and referral attorneys and sometimes licensed document preparers. You don't need an attorney. You just need a licensed document preparer for some divorce.
You do.
And family law, legal help. You know, there's a lot of programs out there. So if they need help, they can contact us together and we'll help out as much as we can.
And I'd love to be on your show too. The Problem Solver. I mean, what we're talking about is definitely solving problems.
Absolutely.
You know, and and I think we're probably about ready to shut down here. So whoever's watching this live and even the recorded, you know, versions later, thank you very much. We're really excited to take this forward. We'll see you next Friday live. And Dave, I appreciate you coming out and helping me out and
Thanks
everything.
so much.
And
I'm also excited for the future of the Deadbeat Chronicles. So as it progresses, it's amazing. So I'm so glad about to be part of the show, and we'll take it from there. I'm always available, and actually you always can call me in as well when you have different people. I'll chime in as well.
all right, guys, and I always want to close the show with this. Always remember to keep courage, temperance. I'm going to start over. Keep courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom close to you always. All right, God bless, guys. See you soon.
Have a good one.
For centuries, across cultures, the bull has been a symbol of diligence. No matter how hard things get, a bull never gives up, never falters in its task. At Hadari Law Group, we want our symbol to mean the same diligence to you. Hadari Law Group. When the dust settles, Hadari won't.